And we are joined on stage by the chairman of the Armagh County Board, who will say a few words, Paul McCardle.
Thank you, Jimmy, and welcome everybody here tonight. And I'd like to, on behalf of armagh-gaa, extend a special welcome to our invited guests tonight. Uachtaran Common Luke Lascale, Egon O'Farrell, Uachtaran Corlulla, Martin McGinley, Head of Media Relations in Croke Park, Alan Milton, and to balance things up ahead of Sunday, living legend from Donegal, Padraig O'Brien. I also want to welcome tonight our panel. I was sitting looking at them down there and thought, I played football against some of these boys. Believe it or not, one of them was an excellent goalkeeper when I played. Jerry, well done. So guys, can I welcome you? Paddy McKeever, Danny Tierney, Enda McGinley, Gerard Houlihan, and a man who never lets us down when we come to call, Jimmy Smith.
That's because he's free.
I'd just like to say as well, this has been an exciting few days in Armagh. We had an exceptional fundraising event on Saturday night. I know a lot of people who are here tonight were there on Saturday night and really enjoyed it. And we thank everybody who helped us out in that event. It was the single most successful fundraising event ever hosted by Armagh-gaa, and we're absolutely delighted to the response. And more importantly, the fun that people had on Saturday night. Thank you all for that. I just want to say a couple of words about Linwood's Armagh TV. An innovative group of men who came together a couple of years ago as volunteers and have set the standard across Ireland for promotion of games within counties. We're exceptionally proud of the people, boys and girls, who are involved in Linwood's Armagh TV. Always first in the athletic grounds, anytime there's a game or an event, and always last away. Never a grumble, never a word, and I repeat, all volunteers. So thank you very much for what you're doing in Linwood's Armagh TV. And I'd also like to welcome Patrick Woods and his wife Flora from the sponsors Linwoods. We're very grateful for what you've done for Armagh over the last few years, and particularly with the TV station. And finally, could I also welcome Paddy McKeever from the GAA store, again, for sponsoring this event tonight. Again, Paddy's a good friend of Armagh's and also a volunteer. He's been working with our under-21s this year as well. So I'll not take up any more of your time, Ron, and say I hope you have a really enjoyable night. And please go easy on Benny, because he's very easily upset.
Well, our panel need no introduction, but I'll introduce them anyway. Enda McGinley, like a lot of Tyrone players, he's won medals at minor, under 21, 3 senior plus an All-Star are not a bad return for this Tyrone man. During the All-Ireland final of 2003, he clashed with Tony McEntee, but played on, only to discover later that he had a broken neck. Physiotherapist by profession, he has proved to be a most astute addition to the BBC's Championship programme. Benny Tierney, one of Armagh's...
Thank you. You don't have to mention my name.
You love this. Benny, one of Armagh's best known personalities. An excellent goalkeeper on Armagh's All-Ireland winning side. In fact, it showed him saving a penalty on the Championship on Sunday. Collection of Ulster Championship medals sit alongside his Armagh and Ulster Club Championship medal won with his beloved Mullabon. Now a regular contributor to the Irish News on Wednesday, moved to Friday, described as a must-read column. That's Benny Tierney.
I'll copy you on this.
And on Benny's left we have Paddy McKeever, who made his debut in 1998 against Down. Enjoyed a glittering career in the orange jersey, scoring 7 goals and 144 points. He collected 7 Ulster Championships and an All-Ireland medal. Made a venture into management and helped Team Moore Shamrocks win a Fermanagh intermediate title. So, Paddy McKeever from Tierney Road.
44 points.
And on my immediate left, Gerard Houlihan, who played for Armagh for 16 years, winning an All-Star in 1993 before collecting 2 Ulster senior medals. first one in 99 and the second a year later. A stalwart with his club, Pearse Oak, he collected 3 senior championship medals, and rumour has it that his dog won the last race on Saturday night in the fundraiser for Armagh, because certainly he ran faster than the dog did to collect his wins at the end of the race. Gerard Houlihan. So, the championship has started, we're 3 weeks into it, and yet the headlines have had very little to do with football. Sadly, sledging appears to be one of the main factors that people are talking about. And how do players cope with it? Sure.
I thought that's why we had Andy here tonight, because we were going sledging. Whatever. Jimmy, it's gone on forever and a day. I'm sure it was going on in your day. I mean, I remember playing in the, again, it's not to dig it to Rome, but in the 84 final, we load of it going on everywhere. Johnny McGurk played for Derry, 93, was notorious for sledging. Just goes on, you just have to get on with it and play away. And because of the makeup of Gaelic, where you're man-to-man marking, you're in everybody's face, you're going to hear it. So that's why it's going to be more common maybe in our sport than maybe in rugby or in soccer. But it's going to go on forever and a day. Unless referees can overhear it and take action, it's not going to be stopped.
Hope Armagh weren't using it in 1984, because if it did, it didn't work.
No, it was used by the Red Hands on that occasion. The bit that I heard anyway.
And you have to defend
yourself.
Your county.
As a token throne man, yes, I think it has been going on. I think there's always been elements of it, and a lot of it was sort of not good-natured, but you know, it was just part and parcel of the game. I think the recent match that brought it into a lot of focus was the Tyrone Donegal game, obviously, which was unfortunate, because I think aside from that, it was a supremely competitive game of football, like, which epitomised everything that's good about the Ulster Championship. 2 good quality sides, and the 2 teams give it absolutely everything. And I came away from the match, and that's all I seen. I seen there was plenty of animosity between the 2 sides. They're 2 sides that have trained very hard and are at almost a similar level, though obviously Donegal's a wee bit ahead at the minute. And the Tyrone fellas had to put down a marker. Now, there's a line to be had. For me personally, I want my football competitive. I want to see 2 sets of teams really going at each other. I think that's what Gaelic football is about, and I think that's what supporters are about. And most supporters left the ground in Ballybofey happy that it was a real tough game of championship football. The sledging probably crossed the line at various times, and I suppose we're aware hugely, like even events like this and the amount of coverage now Gaelic games are getting, it is more and more of a product to be sold. And I think whilst, and I'm sure we'll come on to it later, for players it won't be and will never be about the it's about the entertainment value of the game. It can't ever be that for a player until players are getting paid for it. It is not about the entertainment value. But they do have to be aware that they are being seen by much more people than previously. And so their behaviour needs to be caught a wee bit more. In bygone years, if there was a bit of sorting out to be done, people would have been hit a slap. But without the coverage on TV, people would have got away with it. And we've all grown up on stories about people getting chinned and people, he sorted him out, and it was a good old-fashioned slap, and people like that. Players cannot do that now, so they're looking at some other way to get that aggro out. And unfortunately, at the minute, it's verbals. I would like to see it clamped down, but I don't think we need to be panicking about it. I think it'll work itself out. Players don't want that sort of negativity. I think it'll work itself out, and we can concentrate on all the other good things we have, which is that sheer will to win, which them 2 teams showed in that match.
Is it a defenders thing only, Paddy?
Predominantly, yeah. I would say there probably is forwards out there that would be guilty of it as well. Like, I know Benny, you'd have been prone to a wee bit of banter with the likes of Navan or whoever was maybe in around the square, but that's all harmless enough. To me, defenders probably are showing a weakness initially when they have to resort to that. It's probably saying that I don't have the capabilities one-on-one to beat you fair and square football-wise. Now, in saying that, everybody will use whatever gains they can get or any edge, and obviously if somebody can be put off their game, or if their form in some way, if they've missed a few scores or whatever the case is, that's maybe when the likes of sledging or being a little bit personal with a player can maybe get him to react or can cause a situation where he might retaliate. And then obviously with the coverage, as Enda's already hinted, that you're under the microscope now, so every wrongdoing, generally speaking, is picked up by a camera if it's not by the linesmen or referees. So it would predominantly be more of a defenders, I suppose they would call it the dark arts as such. I wouldn't think there'd been too many forwards that would have engaged in it in my time anyway.
Have the officials any chance in curbing it, stopping it, preventing it, punishing it?
I think if the officials could take part of the refereeing instead of and do that to a decent level, we'd be happy enough. Sledging has been going on, as Paddy says. It's a tool now. It's a vice that's been used by teams. I myself, I have to say, was abused sledging wise over the years. I think the words rhymed with sat and fasted, and I always found that the best answer to sledging was to come back with a better line. And in those days, it was common enough place, but it was seen. You weren't going out. You certainly weren't going out to play Tyrone and expecting jolly good day. How are you doing, sir? You were expecting things to be said, and anybody who made references to my girth on the football field, I normally had a good riposte, that's because I was with your girlfriend last night and she fed me well, and that was banter. And I think since then we have crossed a bit of a line. There's no doubt about that. When you bring in family stuff, when you bring in relationships, and I'm not going to go into it in any big depth, but if you're bringing in something that is nearly would make you physically sick to hear, you're crossing a threshold. You're crossing a threshold socially, not just in sport, but in every facet of life. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't think referees. I think it falls on coaches. It falls on underage coaches and senior manager coaches. That if they hear it, or if they fear of going on, that you discipline your players and say, if you do that again, you're not having anything to do with us. But unfortunately, it is in the game. But it's in every game. Don't tell me that when you're in a ruck and rugby, that there's some French boy isn't making a date with you for dinner that evening. They're saying whatever they want, and it happens in soccer and it happens all over. But unfortunately, we are getting a level of coverage now in our game that is unprecedented, and for that reason, we're nearly always looking for a headline outside the football, as Enda says. Like Tyrone and Donegal was a great match. It was, and it was compulsive viewing, and unfortunately, maybe it was overshadowed by things I don't think that should have overshadowed it. There was a bit of pushing and a bit of shoving. For me personally, watching on the TV, I wanted to hear what was being said. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit like car crash TV. You're looking at it, you're looking at the Formula One, but you're going, yeah, that's great driving, but let's see a big crash here. Do you know what I mean? And that's maybe what we're heading towards. There's been a lot of good football this year in the championship. There's always been a headline. Maybe Joe has said something, or there's been a bit of sledging on the field. Let's look at our games for what they are and the entertainment they are providing us, and let's not maybe be too harsh on the games. Let's look at the positive side. We're tending to run things down a wee bit too much.
Very good. You mentioned physique there. Which reminds me of something. A lot of. Which reminds me of something that Marty Clark came out with on Sunday when he was talking about the match. I thought it was very interesting line. He said that when he looks at the Gaelic player now, he noticed that they were more physically developed, strength-wise, than the boys that he had left behind in Australia, which I found absolutely fascinating remark for someone who has been there to notice that. Are we concentrating too much on the physical end?
Well, obviously from Benny's day, it has changed quite a bit, and physique is now important, and it was very good that.
Why is he here again? Is he so we get the grant for next year, or what's the story? Foreign nationalists. Go ahead.
But across community.
Cross community. It's a mixed marriage.
Physique certainly is massive. I've seen it even at club level. It has all just filtered down, and it's just massive. But again, it's because the teams are training so hard. Then it's to the nth degree. And whenever teams are looking for that extra bit, they're going to get in experts. They're going to get in strength and conditioning coaches. And if you have a employed strength and conditioning coach, well, they have to earn their money, so they need to do a lot of work with the team. And when in nearly all of our days, it would have been gym programs would have been handed out, and you went and done them in your own steam. Now teams are nearly all doing it collectively, which is upping the effectiveness simply because it's been done. I don't mind admitting we got plenty of programs out, and especially during the main part of the season, you sort of done a wee bit of it, but you certainly wouldn't have done it too much. Now with this full-time strength and conditioning coaches, it's been done, and the players are pushing themselves to a huge level. The players are training continually throughout the year. So yeah, it's a massive commitment, but it's just all part and parcel of everything being ramped up. And again, that for me rubbishes this sentiment about players needing to focus on entertainment. If you've spent that amount of time and that amount of effort, diet-wise, lifestyle-wise, gym-wise, training-wise, to go out and compete against another team, you're not there hoping that Joe Bloggs in the front row thinks it's a good game, you know.
Kerry arrived up in Armagh a couple of years ago, March, and there wasn't a pick on them. You know, they were like thoroughbreds. They were ready to go. Now I know the National League and the Championship are now won, but to go back to this, if all the emphasis appears to be on the physical, where's the skill? Where are they being honed or practiced?
Well, I wouldn't say all the emphasis has been there. If you take Kerry, I mean, they've always prided themselves on the best footballers in Ireland, and obviously their technique is probably assured. I think for the other counties, in reality, there's an element of trying to take a shortcut, and the shortcut is in the gym, trying to get physically that you can compete with one another. And Donegal have probably done it through gym and the work that they were doing to bring it to another level. And to be honest, every odd team is now you have to step up to the mark. And you've seen the difference between a Longford team and a Dublin team in reality. Now, the argument is if they spent every night in the gym, they still wouldn't be where Dublin are. But everybody has to try to compete. And the gym's one area where they've got to compete and got to take shortcuts. But in the modern game as well, you could argue very much that because of the way most teams are playing now, i.e. possession football, a lot of the skills are taken out of the game. They're no longer kicking the ball. They're no longer really toe-tapping the ball. You're giving it to the man on his shoulder. And a lot of the game is even played in front of defences, nobody getting behind it. So a lot of it is about retention of the ball and getting the mistakes out of the game. So the technical skills are maybe going, and as a result, those people who are working in the gym are probably going to be at the advantage of the natural footballer. And that's why probably teams are investing in it, because they maybe not have as many capable players as the other teams, i.e. Dublin and Kerry.
Paddy Heaney made a very good point this morning in his article when he talked about the loss of the centre half forward, the playmaker, the man who splits the defence. Now we saw it a couple of years ago when the Gooch had an inspirational half hour against Dublin, but that was almost an aberration. You don't see that anymore. The Greg Blaney's, the Matt Connors, the defence splitting pass. Is that player gone forever?
I don't really think it is. I suppose because of the systems and then the defensive systems that everybody is harping on about, to be quite honest, are probably negating the influence of somebody playing directly on a 45. I think the match that you're probably referring to with the Gooch, the number 11 used to be in an enviable position that, as far as defensively, a number 6's job was to cover his full back. So that gave him a wee bit of latitude and a wee bit of breathing space. So if he was good enough that he got the ball, he could normally always beat the 6 and 14 or 15 or whatever the case is. The negativity regarding defensive structures I don't see it as a massive problem. I think sometimes at club level, because when you bring it down to base level, it makes for a very poor spectacle. But it's up to coaches and teams to figure out ways of breaking it down. You talked there about Marty Clark saying, about the physical makeup of players now. They are fitter. They are a lot stronger. They're more athletic, which means that they're able to retreat quicker. They're able to attack quicker as well. And you talk about the skill set. The skill set has to be better now than it was 10 years ago because of the pace, because of the strength involved as well. So for something that, say, well, Peter Cannon was probably a bit of a freak, but as far as scoring potential of people in the full forward line in those days, it was more open. There was more opportunities, and that's not taken away from their God-given talent. But now, for the likes of Jamie Clark to try and thrive against the Donegal system, he has to adapt. He has to start trying to work out, not just on his own, but within Armagh's collective sort of forward momentum, that they have to find different ways of breaking that down. Whether it is shifting the ball from left to right quickly to get it open before they can. It's almost like basketball, that they're keeping that centre or that honeypot constantly clogged up, that they're making you shoot from unenviable positions or under severe pressure. So the speed of the ball and ball retention, you know, is of paramount importance. But 11 probably has faded out. Like Armagh generally play 2 11s, so they play 2 and 2. And ultimately, it's about the ball when you're breaking down an our defensive third, that has to be moved as quick as possible. Say Kevin Day's done it brilliantly last year for us, and hopefully he'll do it again on Sunday. And it's only that you talk about the lack of foot passing, Hooley. Some players, I feel now, not that they're discouraged, but they're almost afraid to make that pass that's 40, 50 yards. That is the difference of breaking down that defensive structure. If you move the ball, it moves quicker than any man. But you have to be basically, as soon as you turn them over, you have to be on fire going forward. And that's not always running with it. But that outlet has to be there, and that's what he provided last year. And that's how you try and break Donegal down. But like Donegal, in fairness, against Tyrone, which is almost like suicide, to be quite honest, because they're blitzing teams in the first 10 minutes, which automatically then, that allows them to go straight into their game plan. We can counter-attack from here. They have to come at us. We'd sit back, soak, and hitting the break, and then they're creating the space for Michael Murphy, for McBurdy, or whoever it is that they're getting 2 on 2 or 2 on 3. That's all they need. So Armagh has to be aware of that and has to be able to try and do the same on the other side.
Has the blanket defence almost made the goalie redundant, apart from the odd shot?
I honestly thought the show was over. Paddy went on that long there. Settle down, Paddy. Don't say it all in one sentence, Paddy. I don't know, look, will I tell you, this is going to be a topic that's going to be discussed over and over again. And it's one of these overcritical things that we're talking about. You know, the thing that finished me, 2 things finished me with football, right? The tight jersey and the manga. Well, we did 3 sessions a day, and you know, look, that's the road the game has gone down. You know, I think I told the story last year about Jamie Clark when he wasn't doing the gym sessions, and Paddy Rook phoned him and said, you know, there's been 6 sessions in the gym in Belfast, Jamie, and you've only done 1. And he said, that's right, Paddy. He said, Jamie, we're here as a team. We're working together as a team. Everybody has to do it as a team. If you're not doing it, we're not seen as a team. So you have to do the gym sessions. And Jamie says, listen, Paddy, there's 2 things in life. There's piano players and piano pushers, and I'm no piano pusher, you know. And in a way, Jamie Clark and that specific type footballer like the Gooch, they're the people we want to see. They're the people we want to get on the ball. They're the people that, you know, Enda talks about entertainment there. They are entertainment. They're the people, the Canavans of this world, that were able to entertain us in the ball. But they're a dying breed because we're now playing our most physical team. We're playing half-backs as half-forwards because they're built, you know, and that nobody's going to get past them, you know. And it's, you know, look, rugby's gone down the same road as well, you know, soccer. Everybody's more fit and more built up. Unfortunately, it's not great for our game because, you know, you could see on Sunday, for example, you could see just thundering tackles all day long, you know. And Paddy talked about it there too. The kick pass is gone because when a player comes in now at half time, there's a boy there who's employed to go, you had the possession of the ball 7 times and you give it away 4 times. The likelihood is if you kick the ball, you're taking a risk. So the easy option is to fist to Paddy, who's 5 yards away, or Enda, who's 5 yards away, and then my stats look good at half time and then I'm not being taken off. And unfortunately, that's the way it's going. So Crossmaglen don't play that way. The club, All-Ireland Club Champions this year, didn't play that well. Corofin, they played an entertaining brand of football because you can in club. I think you can at club level, but it's getting to that physical department as well. We saw Corofin playing a brand of football this year that we'd all want everybody playing, but unfortunately not everybody can play that, like Cross and Corofin. And that's why we have, in the minute, we have well-built men thundering into each other, seeing who's the fittest, and maybe it's nearly like a demolition derby by the end of it. Unfortunately, the skill level has decreased. I know the boys might agree with me, but I think the skill level has decreased. We witnessed on Sunday, but down in Derry, 30-yard chances. I was talking to an old mate of yours, Peter Rooney, during the week. He went, down players couldn't kick the ball over the bar from 30 yards because that's not what they've been trained to do, which they would have been trained to do. Unfortunately, I think it's a weakness in our game, but that's my personal opinion. Not everybody agrees with it. We are better, we are fitter, we are leaner, we are more athletic, but I don't think we're any better footballers.
Very well put. Enda, you started this thread earlier on, so I'll pick it up on a question about it anyway. A lot of managers, just as you said, come out with the line, we are not in the entertainment business. are we in a danger of losing our audience?
Your average club player, the basic bedrock of the team, you're under 14, you're under 16, you're minor, your club player, have they a huge audience to be playing in front of? What is the spirit of, for me, what's the spirit of Gaelic games? It is playing with boys who you belong with. It's playing in a team and competing against another team and giving everything you can for the jersey and for your club and for your people to try and achieve something. Not once did I think about entertaining. Personally, probably because I wasn't a player that could entertain. There's very few players that can entertain. So for the rest of us, what none of God are we playing the game for? You know, or just to go out and practice our solo dummies? You know, I think the whole entertainment fallacy, teams put in so much work, and it's such tight margins that if 1 ounce of your being is going out thinking, I hope I put on a nice display that people see it. Like, you know yourself, you are in front of an audience of 10, 15, 20,000. What will be one man's brilliant posh player will be another man's fancy Dan that doesn't have the backbone in him.
And just to come on to that end, right, my own Kerry last year, 2 entertaining games, 2 brilliant games, entertaining games. There's still 2 teams that give us entertainment, so what's the difference then? They were entertaining
But Throne and Donegal was entertaining.
Yeah.
You had Throne
there is
Armagh
entertainment
in
there.
05, Throne
That's right.
Armagh, the 3 huge
That's
battles,
right,
which
massive
was
matches.
hugely physical,
Yeah.
hugely athletic.
But there is
and hugely
entertainment there,
intense
that's what I'm
and
saying.
hugely entertaining. So
Yeah.
I think we're equating blanket defence to loss of entertainment, and I don't think so. I think the modern player has to be more intelligent than ever before. You have to be able to use that ball under intense and pressure. And not only that, the kick pass, and yes, there's probably less of it, but it is a key skill. If you can have somebody to unlock a defence, that is a match winner right there. And the teams that have that is the teams that are going to succeed. And your limited teams are going to play the defensive football, but they need that wee bit of quality. Donegal have that wee bit of quality, and it shows. Dublin, the first team to play this zonal defence, more than the blanket defence, the zonal defence, was Dublin against us in a quarter-final, and we couldn't figure out what went wrong. But our most effective tactic as that team of the noughties was this surge out of defence from a brilliant football-minded defence. Conor Gormley, Philly Jordan, Davy Hart, Racing McMahon loved bombing up the pitch. So what did Dublin do? We were poor in midfield. Average in midfield, shall I say. Poor. But
You're not selling yourself.
Dublin completely conceded. Our stats, it was the first time I remember clearly in a post-match or post-season review by Mickey Hart, he says, we won 100% of our kickouts against Dublin. First ever time we'd ever broke about 60%. We won 100% of our kickouts against Dublin in that quarter-final. And we had 17 wides because we were getting the ball, carrying it up the pitch and missing. And we couldn't know what was wrong. So Dublin, the famous Dubs, beat us. And they had to do that because we had handed Dublin beatings all the rest of that decade, if you know what I mean. So the game will evolve. I think we're concentrating on the blanket of the zonal defence at the minute. I think the cream is still rising to the top. Your Corfins, your Crossmaglen's, your Dublins, your Kerrys, the cream is still rising to the top. And I think other teams will have to adapt and be forced to come up. And the players will have to be intelligent, they're fit and athletic. But again, when all the fitness and athletic is even, then the most skillful players still come out on top.
Jimmy, we're presupposing we're losing audience. Full house again this Sunday coming. It's the biggest crowd I've seen in Derry who don't support their teams at the weekend. The Donegal Tyrone game. What people don't want to see is what happened in Longford. Dublin and Longford cakewalks. And it's not about entertainment, it's about competition. It's about the will to win, about everybody putting their bodies on the line. And as long as we've got that, and as Enda says, you're playing for the jersey and these people here are supporting Armagh on Sunday, we'll always have an audience. We'll all have an audience. We're splitting our audience up with Sky TV. Don't forget now we've got our own terrestrial channels and we've got the live football. So that, if any, we're only displacing the product, but the audience I think is as big as ever. And I'm saying Aidan and Martin will probably tell you the same. I would expect that they're expecting full houses for most of the Ulster Championship matches. I don't see where the audience is going. I still think Gaelic football is the strongest sport in the island, and it will continue to be.
Are the older generation looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, looking for the past and remembering great games, what they thought were great games? But maybe if you looked up the old tapes, maybe they're not.
Yeah, I think even if you look at some of the pundits now that are previous players, they hark back to golden eras where they were in their prime. I obviously grew up watching Martin McHugh, Colin O'Rourke or whatever. That great me team was a team that probably Armagh probably tried to model themselves on years ago. And the football was good at times, but God, it was hard to watch sometimes as well. Like, you know, you take out, say, Dublin Meath, the trilogy, which, you know, was, you know, you were glued to the TV for that. Like, the crowds, the passion of the supporters, and then obviously two teams that really, really despised each other, like, that couldn't wait to get another rattle. And the drama and the comebacks, you know, they were great, but there were so many poor games as well. Like, and the thing about, and it's hinted on a couple of times, that people are saying that the skill level's down. I totally disagree. I think because of the nature of the football and the pace that it's played at now, you have to be more skillful. Anything that you're doing at a faster pace, you have to be better skilled to do it as well. You don't have the same time on the ball or whatever the case is. And even what Hooley saying, like, the two semi-finals last year were awesome games. The two finals weren't. But, like, Kerry realised that they couldn't go and do what Dublin attempted to do with Donegal and go out and play this open, beautiful, flamboyant football, because you're just playing directly into their hands, and they would have got exactly what Dublin got. Like, even if you take, Jim Gavin probably should have got the sack the year that Donegal beat them, purely for being so naive and even a wee touch of arrogance that they were just going to outplay Donegal football-wise and give no consideration to any sort of defensive structure. Now, you look at them this year, every time they played Ulster teams this year, the way that they're setting up, they're preparing for later on in the year to maybe meet Donegal or Armagh or Tyrone or whatever the case is, that they're not going to get caught in the hop again like that.
Just following that, and did Kerry pay Armagh a great compliment by adopting the tactics that Armagh used against Donegal and employed almost similar ones, with a few little add-ons in the final, whereas Dublin didn't?
Absolutely. In the modern game, in any sport, in any advanced sport, coaches, you put in so much effort. You have to look at what are the opposition's weak points, and then you target them. Now, if another team has highlighted some weak points, and you know you're probably even a better team again, well then that gives you plan A. You'll still need plan B and plan C. And again, coming on to the equipment that a modern player takes, a modern player needs to be able to take on plans A, B and C and be able to implement them in a game, which is, it's very, very challenging while still competing and while still executing the skills. But absolutely, Kerry paid Armagh a huge compliment. But let's not, Kerry have done that throughout the years. Kerry have adopted, led the change, and always had a huge degree of competitiveness and physicality. I remember my first time playing Kerry was up in Omagh. I was only 20 or 21, and it was starting. The next thing it was Tomás O'Shea was on. So I had obviously grew up watching those Sheas. Those Sheas are royalty, and I was a young cub wing half forward. Tomás O'Shea. I thought, yes, Tomás O'Shea. God, this will be brilliant. You know, marking Tomás O'Shea, first class. Straight away, shook hands and straight bang, chisel, no sledging, but thumping and banging for the first 5 minutes. And I thought, oh right. So it's not just pure football then. You know, so Kerry, and I'm sure anybody that played against Kerry in the 70s and 80s would say that they might have shook, but they got stuck in, and you respect them for it. And that's GA culture, that's Gaelic games culture. So the hardness and that competitive thing, we don't want to lose that. Kerry have epitomised that. Dublin have shown an ability to change and tactically change. That's absolutely fine. What I suppose gets my goat up is that anything, if Kerry have done it, that's brilliant. That's Kerry's. That's first class of them being able to pick that up and do that first class. Terrible northern teams bringing in them tactics in the first place. You know, it's this criticism that, as a Tyrone man, I'm feeling personally a huge amount at the minute. I'm very worried coming out here tonight, I was too. But, you know, it's that balance. Kerry, absolutely, credit where credit's due, they adopted. And they won All Ireland with a team at the very start of its career, and a team that had no great right to win it, and yet they won it.
Just to finish this half, Ger, Kerry got off to a fantastic start in that All-Ireland final last year, scored a brilliant goal, and yet it took a mistake, sadly, by the goalkeeper to swing the game for them. They were stung by that, and they'll be back fitter and more eager to make amends this year?
The worry about Kerry moving forward this year, they have a Gooch back, they have Tommy Walsh back, and the one with an underrated team from last year. And that's a big concern for everybody else. But Anna's point's right, and I think Kerry learned their lessons. In 2003, Tyrone beat them up. It wasn't going to happen again. And for the rest of the decade, Kerry were back playing at the top of the game, and they didn't fear Ulster teams after 2002, after 2003. They learned the lesson, and most teams have got to do that. And to their credit, they have a fancy dance for football, they have a great tradition, but they know how to play hard and how to win games, and that's all credit to them.
Very good. So a very interesting first half, some excellent discussion, and we'll look forward to more coming second half.
Is Holome and Smolach, is an Londu Arach, Gareli Mugra, Yalhar Sailya. Oh, I got up 2 hours before day, and I got a letter from me true love. And I heard the blackbird and the linnet say that my love has crossed the ocean. McClown's Janda, O Aru Arer, Slimona Gudatni and Van Dilum Hen, Akfagi me my ye, Kasimoy melum hen, a mock free nechel, just crave. But I'll take my own advice and leave her behind to ramble the wide world over.
Thank you, Bothan. And just moving slightly to the left of Cullyhanna, we move to Silver Bridge for our senior county score champion, Meghan Burns, who's going to sing Anar Yas na Giwalt On.
Shadurj column killalam Gehefren najet fial Luktan tavrish gogalan sheed Ibwar chwarlegia Nakmoran tabishta Dundina jarnuriu Arida crinu Agis Kinahu aspoir hase Reg malak dun berle Agis bo galibrog Reg mashan medchen Marial art the store Maranul gmehinis to head shark Mwajin kun kyo Smajikens jakt Legev nyaktar shalawan jaspo Jima me mar jima hu Manua gismutne Jima me mar jima hu Fun ye galanle Jima me mar jima hu Anschnak darungrian No damehin adalan is haku Tulyaram is wahime Damrahi mayalawaruin Skuliyahi mohyan Hobanle shanshnakta Daliuiglin The gem of Dalu is an yeshenaklan Bekevnya gemurd Anyer yasagiwaltan
Thank you very much, Bothan and Meghan. And as our chairman, Paul McCardle, said earlier, we're joined tonight by two huge figures in the world of GAA, and Uachtaran Egon O'Farrell and Cahira Cora Olu Martin McAviney. And having a quick word with them is our own Raymond Cairns.
Ain't mai, gur maigah, agus tá fáilte mhór roimhan seo hig Bala na Homana, the first recorded sight of a game of hurling, just out behind that wall there, when Cuchulainn came over, sleeve food. Ach lin an seo an ocht tá Canara na main Barca Crogi, Alan Milton, agus Alan ní strainseir be hosa an seo le telefish Ardwaha Linwoods. Cahi go bhfuil dúil agat in Ardwaha?
Well, is there go bhfuil bhí forras cura nuair go bheith láthair libse Raymond agus bhí an tá darglum go raibh mé an teacht agus bhuiil mé an sul das an taithí mar a dúirt mé an ihe sin ní dólum go léon chun é an éireann tá am nach go léon chun é an éireann ag déanamh rud mar seo so más féidir ling taceacht ar bit a háirt a tionscad mar seo ag leibhéil náisiúnta tá dúilgas orangé sin dhéanamh agus caithí mé ardmhula a háirt a Christa chun é Ardwacha agus Linwoods go háthe go bhfuil an chlár mar seo le feiceáil agus le fáil ní bháin fud na chunda anocht ach ar fud na crunne agus nach ítach an rud go bhfuil ceol bra bláfar mar sin le clúistáil agus pacáiste an sco leis na sainolthe agus a méidir coolla mar go dtí an buinte seo anocht.
Cian na haimini a bhí agin a Alan na ar gluhí an fel agus an ommaint agus an líroid lava a chur ar fáil do na daoine atá thar lár an diaspora as ardwatha. An bhfuil éon fleananaí ag an Common Lúcla scéal tógáil ar an waragú sin?
Well, yeah, ó chuir ag GA gáirsúil an Nordic agus is léir gur bhfuil dlúbhainted ar an rud atásúla go bh nocht an seo le Armagh TV. Linwood's Armagh TV agus GA gá ag level náisiúnta. Agus ní credfá an bura atá agus an fás atá le cúpla seachtain na nús nuair a thosaigh na cluichí craobhacha. A méid sim atá an thar lár. Cuireann daoine muineann sa technoliacht inis nach raibh an riamh agus tá an 4G ag fás, tá an Wi-Fi ar fáil ar fud na crinne, go háirthe tíir fá nach credfá, agus do bhar sin tá baimid ag déanamh staidir ar GA gá agus conas an seirbhíse leathnú amach agus bhrálum go pásanta níos mó chur amach an sin seachas na cluichí beo tá bíon 5-6 seach lá idir na cluichí céim fánach féidir líon an spáisiú na líne le Clarky mar an tá an ceanna seo a Craile Nocht.
Well, Alan, you're the head of media up in Croke Park. I'm sure it's a handy enough job. Well, could you tell us here tonight, and for all the viewers around the globe, what are the next big things that are going to happen in the promotion of our games?
Well, after I read Benny Tierney's column every weekend, there's nothing too controversial on it. This time last year, we were talking about Sky, obviously, and Garth Brooks and various other things. So we're very, very happy to put our focus back where they should be, and that's on our games and our culture. I think we'll have interesting developments. Obviously, there's discussions going on about the format of the championships, which is for the wider association. But in terms of how we market and promote our games, we've never spent more in terms of advertising. I'm sure you've seen our campaign Be There All the Way, which followed Nothing Beats Being There. And I think there's an onus on us this year. We've just finished putting in 2 new HD screens in Croke Park, one of which is the largest in Western Europe at the Hill 16 end of the ground. I think we've got to get a balance between how good it is to watch our games on TV in the comfort of your sitting room in HD and how good the experience is of going to the games. And we'll be working very hard this summer to ensure that while the game will always be the primary attraction, people come to the games now expecting a little bit more than that. So in addition to putting on the best spectacles that we can from the minute you land at a given ground in Ireland, or indeed in Ruislip if you're over there, that the experience from top to bottom, especially if you've got children and especially if families are attending or you're attending in groups, in addition to us looking at examining ways how we can promote them abroad and bring them to the widest audience. And one project I would mention, Raymond, this year is that we're looking at the moment at the possibility of something along the lines of Croke Park FM or Croke Park Radio later in the year, but we have a lot of ground to cover before we'll be able to get there.
Very exciting times ahead then. Guracéad Maigad Alan Milton. Agus ní bheadh an chláir seo ceart na cór gan gú ó Hir Connell agus sa fear an seo linn as ranna farste atá na hónaí I muinechan ach ní strainsear a bí éad ardwatha a fádrig an féidir compráid a dhéanú idir an irin a rahas chun na parca Jadóní agus an irin a win in Nóca sa Dó.
Well, Kinche, before an intach an the dá agus ceantan a cúisian I bó beidir bhain for an ihe dá na tasaithe a bhí acu. Martin McHugh agus Manus Bail go háirit for na scóraní ar fad. Sin cean beidir dan na lachtaní for an na contaí bahar na huaire agus ó dúirtear go minic nach bhfuil nuair an a scóral gohfuil de gimmars go maithe agus an rud sin apart from the blanket defence, gohfuil gur peileadarí maithiad agus gohfuil de gimmars go héintach ach ní dáilm gohfuil na tasaithe ar fad gohfuil de scóral an gnáam sin bhí Manus Bail, Declan Bonner, Tony Bail a bhí go héintach, Martin McHugh agus tá duine facar lá but hí na sé tasaithe se has beidir Joyce McMullen hí na sé tasaithe scóral agus bhí láir páirce mitsin a láidir an sin an Anthony Malay agus Brendan Murray ach chuir peileadarí a gompred le peileadarí is stáilm an na riamh go méidir ggóil an forann seo an na omland níos fearr mar ghlaachtar an is leis gur sin an niran atá an chundaí agus Tigan an pobl an is, tigan na supporters, cé an niran atá ag dúna ngáil. ní bhíon ceistionaí. An san éan an écha dá, bhí rinch deacrataí, agus bhí an tádearg ar thu gcóirse ar hiú leis an sna tacaí ag an tús, you know.
Fádrig, is cinse gur chur na tosaíthe sciún ar na foirne eile in nógus a dó. Jimmer sibh coppla seachtain ó hen agus win sibh a gcinne hirón an buntaiste é sin ag gancasteach ag gluthe an dónaí seo.
Stáin am gur buntaiste cinse mar a dúirt na himraí thuasan seo ar báil ba cluithe ionta cruaí a bhí an sin agus tá sé ionta deach ar amaíocht an chineal sin na hahaint. It's very hard to beat competitiveness of that description. Is stáin am gur cluithe anchrúaí a bhí an agus is stáin am gur buntaiste mór tá sem dífa. Ar nó a bhí McGinley hísan sin agus chanig sé go déhíh gal a ré agus má bhí lachtar bíhir ar forim gúna ngádas cinse ggóil nóta deantaigh McGinley de sin.
Oh, he was just down there for the day out, for the run out. A Fádrig, Aberlum, where on the field of play this Sunday will the game be won? You've mentioned the forwards, but where will the game be won?
Yes, and I would go back to that again, to Donegal's improvement in the forward division. And I feel that they should play Murphy more in attack than he has been played. In that game with Tyrone, we saw him coming out of defence on a few occasions, out of the last line of defence on a few occasions, and so on. I think Murphy must be up front. Packy, the Kilcarman, the Kilcarman too, and Oran McNeilis. These are the key men. And Donegal will need to get more scores to get away from that. I know that Armagh have a surplus of forwards there. And Donegal were always afraid of Armagh, and they don't forget Cross McLean and so on like that. But I'd say they'll be well prepared for that thing.
Yeah. And who's going to win on Sunday, Fádrig?
Well, anything can happen in a game like that. There's no certainties. As happened last year in the All-Ireland, and has been mentioned up there too, a mistake by the goalkeeper really lost the game for Donegal, because Donegal would have won that game, you know. But taking it all around, and the class of players that Donegal have, and the consistency that they have shown, and so on like that, I feel Donegal will share it. But it'll be a tough match, and it'll be a hard-hitting game. But I believe it will be a fantastic game.
Gur maigad Fádrig agus bei 2-1 2 héan. Anish. Martin McAvenny. Not going to sit down for too long though, Martin. You're 2/3 of the way through your office. What have you achieved so far, and what would you like to achieve as the President of the Ulster Council?
Good to start with an easy question on here. I suppose that'll be for others to decide, but I mean, I've had a very successful time. As you say, I've almost there. I finished in February. The time goes in so quick, so I've probably just tried to continue to build the Association Ulster to be the best that we can be. So I would hope that that's where we're going, and I just hope that we keep improving all the time.
And apart from Monaghan's recent win, what have been your highlights this season so far?
Already the start of the championship, I'd have to say, you talked about earlier about the way our games were portrayed or everything else. I just couldn't wait from the draw was made. I couldn't wait for the championship to start, and they always said you should try and line up a good match first, and then we missed an opportunity when we don't. And when I saw the first match that was being held that time at Donegal and Tyrone, I just said you couldn't start the championship any better. It was an absolutely rip-roaring game, and then it followed by Monaghan and Cavan. So our championship so far, absolutely fabulous. And again, the probably the weak game in it was the Fermanagh Antrim game. But again, this weekend, we have a match coming again. So out of 4 matches in a championship this year already, 3 of those would be ding dust, and nobody wants to be anywhere else except Athletic on Sunday. The atmosphere on Sunday, and if you ask me what that will be, that's just another highlight of our championship so far this year. That's to go with all the other. I have highlight, thanks be to God, every week something I go to. I give out awards this last few days on children's art competition. There, to me, were highlights. When you see the response that we have to our games in our schools from our teachers and our pupils, it's absolutely there. Every day is not being smart saying that, but every day that I go out to do something with the GA, there's something new comes up, and it's always a highlight.
Well, you're clearly enjoying it, and the Ulster Council have a fantastic range of games, hurling, football, handball, score. How is it all achieved?
volunteers. We just go back every time to our volunteers. They're always there. We have, as you know, quite a few people involved in the Ulster Council, in the different programmes that we run as well, but none of it works without the volunteers. And maybe just to take up on what Paul said earlier on tonight about Linwood's Armagh TV, and he reiterated again, it's about volunteers. And when you can see what our volunteers, what they can turn their hand to and what they can do, and we were always famous for that. And this is a good example to highlight what the boys are doing in relation to the TV stuff. That was the bedrock of our association, to have the volunteers who will look at the next opportunity and not say we have to buy in this expertise. We have it here, we're using it here, and if we continue that, and we do it through coaching and everything else, but now this is taking it to the next level. So it's really all about our volunteers and the leadership that they get from people that have been before us and continue to give up their time. And it's all about giving, and that's what we have a lot of people prepared to do that.
Gurchéad Maigad, agus anish Lori me. Tá fáilte mhór roit a éigean uachtaran an chumanlú clás scéal agus cé mar tá I géirí leat I do ról uair.
I géirí go bra súla agam nílim cinse faoi sin mar dúirt Martin is dul gaiile a bheits thorú sin, but tá fear gróthach agus fear gníomhach mín tá ag taistil ar fud na tíre agus thsáile cumáid ag tuairte leán cuirtin ar clubanna cuistí chundathe leán ócáidí I scolanna agus sins na cluban ar fad agus bí ag barca croc ag gaci le lá a lán crinithe a lán rudí le planáil ag gul ré go maiid agus ag buú le daoine an tarma fad agus a lán fuinneamh I go minú le scéil. Tá fuinneamh an seo an ort, tá fuinneamh gacáit agus ag buint an soltas.
Gur fad agus Louis Allen ní beluíthe an túramíocht atá a muíonn sin gneanthar astruchtarú ar chríú idir chundaí sa fel an bhfuil íon túramíocht agad héan ar sin?
Well, tá cinse bar is agriacht déan le hacmuid mar is oldit agus tá sin tá deacrachtaí a buint le sin chumáid, but ige Christa dearnach a bhí agin Christa na hardcóirle thosaigh muid an díospóracht agus chur mé amach an sin donna condathe a go le bhaile a bheith áirc ar na comórta síb mar atá siad fo láthair agus tá má molta acu I maidir le comórtas amána nó comórtas pelle mas féidir lo in moltaí a thabhairt arás chun éon rud a fiosú ba muid an an éisteach leis. But caiimmuid a bheith géisteach bhí Enda McGinley ag caint an sin faoin the cream comes to the top agus tá ceart aige. Sin a thar lohi I gcónaí I sport. Na fórne is fear tagan siad chun a thosaigh agus sin a thar líon I gcónaí. Tá thuirimí agam sílam go bhfuil na créimhe na comórta sí créimhe fear láidir agus is céimín tatú an seo I guaige olú ceanjan na créimhe ceanjan na cuaige is ládra ar fad agus tá tácht faoi lei ag buint leis na comórta sí créimhe sílam. Agus tugann muid go léir, tá muid go léir díalseacht ar ganda héin, tú héin díalseacht ar dwacha mise do bhuiinecán páric an seo do gúna ngála chumáile sin, tá muid díalseacht ar guaige agus cibé furdan a héan go parca croc I gas ar guaige, tá muid go léir in an a bheith páirteach lo, tá sin fear háhachtach. Agus tá na créimhe fear láidir, so sílam gur ceart na créimhe cuaige a chineáil. Ach is féidir linn a bheith athharc a rís agus a chorú béidir agus díospórach faoin na qualifiers agus a féchann sin bhfuil rudaí an sin gur féidir linn iad a fiosú mas féidir ba muid brasásta éisteach lei sin.
Gurchéad Maigad, agus an cheist Dhearnach, you're the president of the GAA, the largest voluntary and sporting and cultural organisation on the island, one of the largest in Europe, I'm sure. And you have a different perspective than we have. What does the championship mean for you? What are you expecting from this coming championship, which has already started? What does it mean to you?
Well, sport is about good fun and sport is about passion, and the GA is all about loyalty to your own place. We love doing it for our own. The players have mentioned it on the programme earlier. We just love doing the excitement and the colour and having the support, and it's very important that we remember our clubs during championship as well. Our clubs continue to play, and the first love we always have is to our club. I would always keep that very much into the highlight of my mind during championship times. club competitions and the love of coming together. But when you see it on championship days, the club bus is coming together, the groups, the day out, that's all very much part and parcel of everything. The fun, the camaraderie, the excitement. And then the guys are absolutely correct when they talk about entertainment. The entertainment is the product that we just attend it, we go to it. The players play to win. From children go out in a school playground and are first fit to kick a ball or to hit with a hurl, they want to win. So it's about competing at the highest level that you possibly can. And we admire the skill and we admire the challenge and we admire the excitement of it. But nothing beats being there at that championship match. And it just is, this would be a dull, lifeless island to live on without the GA championship.
No doubt about that. Gur a céad maigad éigean agus don híanaí speisialta go leor eile agus rás tugadh sa inis a Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Raymond. I think our Uachtarán painted a wonderful picture there of the championship and what it means, and it's whetted our appetite for Sunday. Last year, Benny Armagh shocked Donegal to a certain extent in Croke Park. Is it too big an ask for them to do it again this Sunday in the packed, colourful confines of the athletic grounds?
No, I don't think so. I think, just from an Armagh perspective, I would wonder and possibly worry about what's our final team. I don't think any of us really know at this stage because we've had injuries and we've had players out, the likes of Brendan Donaghy and boys like that, Stephen Campbell who haven't played in a while. So you wonder about fitness of boys like that there. But I would have no doubt that if Armagh could play Donegal in Croke Park in the spaces where we thought Donegal would cause Armagh serious problems, then possibly then in the tight confines of the athletic grounds, we're in with a chance. I think Peadler's right as well that I hope Donegal don't play Michael Murphy up front. I hope he's clearing balls from the full back line again this week because I don't know why, but they tend not to play him as a target man. I think if they do, we're in trouble because Michael Murphy showed in the first half of the All-Ireland that they won against Mayo that he only played about 13 or 14 minutes and he destroyed Mayo. But it seems to be a game plan they have and long may it continue. So, but I think Armagh are coming in again. We're coming from Division 3. We heard RT pundits going that Derry and Down, there's a massive gulf in class between Division 1 and Division 2. There was a point in it, and a controversial sending off. There was nothing in it. And I guarantee there won't be much in it on Sunday as well. And I would be hopeful that Armagh, I know under Geyser and on the management team that they will lack nothing but passion and fight. And should the game go down to the wire, you have to remember we were 4 or 5 minutes away from an All-Ireland semi-final last year, coming from nowhere as well. I think everybody probably were not we're not drifting in unbeknownst this year. I think everybody knows, if you talk to the outsiders, they're saying Armagh are a team to watch. Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough. We are a team to watch. We're a team that could do damage. Whether we win on Sunday, I'm not sure, but I definitely will be going to the match hoping that we'll give a good account of ourselves, and I would not be surprised if we beat Donegal.
Taking a couple of lines of Benny's there, Paddy, Ciarán McGeaney, Division 3 and Division 1. Ciarán's already talked up this gulf in class between Division 1 and Division 3. Is that just mind games, or is there a certain amount of truth in what he and other pundits say?
I think within the team environment, they'll be under no doubts as in that they can win that, and like nobody from Geyser at the top right down is going to the athletic grounds on Sunday not believing they can win. The reality of it is though that there is a gulf in class between first and third division, but Armagh aren't a third division team anyway. They are a second division team. Donegal are very much a first division team, although they openly conceded to Cork in the semi-final because the championship's what it's all about for them, as far as I could see anyway. My biggest worry would be, I think that we will be competitive with them. We've had a wee bit of a break. Benny's hinted on that there's been injuries to a few key personnel, so we're not quite sure what the makeup of the team's going to be. But as Benny hinted as well, we're going to be competitive with Donegal. The biggest thing about it, I was chatting to Enda just beforehand, Donegal have this uncanny knack of managing a game almost themselves, and that comes with big game experience as well, which we don't necessarily have, and there was a surprise factor last year. It's important that we don't let them get away from us at the start, because that plays straight into their hand, the counter-attacking brand they play. But if we are there in the last 10 minutes, which I expect us to be, that's where you see the Michael Murphys and Frank McGlynn's come up with the game winning moments. We're hoping that somebody from Armagh, whether it is Jamie, but a lot's expected of him, and he probably hasn't done it against Donegal to date, or it's somebody else out of the pack. But we need something a bit special, particularly down the stretch, if we're going to turn the tables in Donegal, because they are used to closing out games, they are used to controlling it, and that last 10 minutes, that's where they're particularly strong as well.
If Armagh were to do it, Enda, how would they do it?
I think whilst Armagh never would like to take Tyrone's lead, I think they have to look at some of the things that worked for Tyrone. Tyrone kept Michael Murphy quiet. Now, again...
my grandmother had 3 children, but she'll never have any more. That's all I'm saying.
But I'm sure there were 3 lovely ones.
Gorgeous. 3 big red-headed children.
I think you have to try and keep Michael Murphy quiet. I think Donegal assist with that by taking Michael Murphy out. I'd fully agree with the boys here. I've played with Michael Murphy, lucky enough, with Ulster and that, and to see him in training, he is a phenomenal footballer. He is one of these once-in-a-generation footballers, and I would love to see him cut loose a wee bit more, and I think full forward's the place to do it. But I think it goes without saying that you have to stop a player of that calibre to try and settle Donegal. I think Ryan McHugh's hugely important for them too in that carrying game out. The problem is, as I was mentioning, as Paddy says, we were chatting before, Crossmaglen are a team that so many teams have got close to beating, and so many teams will come away with saying, we're close to them, and then Crossmaglen won. Donegal are something similar. You can be close to them, and the nature of the way that they play, plenty of teams get close to them, but very few teams get across the line. So for me, that means it means 2 things. I fully expect that this game's going to be competitive. I expect that Armagh are going to be within striking distance of them. The key thing is in them crucial 10-15 minutes. Now, they may not be the last 10 or 15 minutes. Quite often with Donegal, they seem to make a huge surge at the start of the second half and then sit back and protect that. But at some stage, there's going to be a key 10 or 15 minutes, and the players on the pitch have to sense that moment. And if Armagh sense that moment and can strike for a score at that stage, and suddenly Donegal have to come at them, all bets are off. Armagh, and again, the great thing about the Ulster Championship, every game's competitive. Armagh can win this. In the athletic grounds, Armagh can win this. But you just fancy Donegal.
You do?
I do.
What about Limerick? What do you think they'll
I have to apologise for your friend on the left.
Wexford too, coming up.
We'll take that Armagh, we'll forget about Mr. McGinley for a second. We'll take that Armagh could win this match, and if they were to win this match, who would win it for them? Who would be their match winner? Who'd be their Michael Murphy?
Well, Jimmy, there's big gaps. I mean, Donegal, although they've got this defensive tactic, they bomb forward almost at will. You've seen the goal that Tyrone scored against them unopposed. The half-back line that Donegal play is, to me, the best line in modern day football. McGlynn, Diver and McHugh, they come forward all the time, but that automatically leaves spaces, and they've scored goals. Cork had scored 4 goals against them. Now, you wouldn't have happened in Jim McGuinness's time. They're playing the same system, but I think they are a wee bit more open at the back because they like to come forward, and you're always dangerous when you're on the attack. And I think, I mean, we have our own jewel is obviously Jamie, and I think we can't afford to play him out of the full forward line. He's got to be playing as close to the goal as we can. The 2 McGee boys, you know, we know what they're made of. They can get into the bother. I get them close to the goals, and I think that was a big mistake that Donegal did against Tyrone. If you were playing a Michael Murphy and going man to man, you'd have brought him onto the square where the 2 umpires could see them, and you were getting any penalties, any was going in. And I think Jamie needs to play off the edge of the square. He needs to be making his runs from there, and we get the ball to him, and he needs to be ably assisted. I assume Stefan's going to play, and he did untold damage in Croke Park last year against them by running at them. And also, I think young Murran, I think he has to start, has to play close to goal and be a foil for Jamie. And I think between that triumvirate, I think they can give Donegal all they want.
Have Armagh the physique for Donegal? Benny?
Oh, I think so, yeah. You know, any team that Geezer's involved with, you know, that'll be a big part of their planning. You know, well, it's part of everybody's planning. You know, but I will agree, it's going to be a bit like rugby league at stages on Sunday, because there's going to be serious hitting going on, but it will be physical. You know, we talk about this entertainment again. Sometimes physicality is entertaining. You know, we look at some of the games where if you look at Dublin and Meath back in the day, they were the most physical encounters of all. On Sunday, hopefully we'll get a referee. Hopefully they will let the game go and will let hits not be counted all as frees and that breaking ball. I agree with Hooley there. I think that Jamie needs a foil. I think for too long, you know, we'll watch Down on Sunday, for example, with a very small full forward line. They've no target man. 3 very good footballers in Mark Poland, in Conor Laverty and Donal O'Hare, but physically they had no presence whatsoever, and they were snapped out by bigger men. Murnan, I think, is the perfect foil for Jamie Clark. He's a target man. You also have Ethan Rafferty there, who could play that role as well if the occasion got to Murnan or something else. So we have plan A and plan B and different things to work on. You know, obviously we're dependent on Donegal not to bring their best game, because if you look at the full forward line of McBrearty, Murphy and McFadden still, they are all capable. They're all scorers. You know, Murnan on his day, you know, he's young, he hasn't done it yet in an Armagh. Murnan is a class act. Clark is a class act. If we can get those 2 boys and maybe one more forward scoring to match those 3, well, then we could come to a shootout, which is what we all want. But it's going to be very physical. Armagh will match them physically. I have no doubt about that. If Geezer will have them ready for that end of it. So I think we're in for an encounter to look forward to again, you know, and let's look on it as a positive game, and let's hope on Monday, you know, regardless of the result, you know, I think Armagh will go close. I think they could possibly win it. But let's hope we're all talking about it again for the right reasons. And as was mentioned earlier about the Ulster Championship, we're the only championship that is producing games of this quality, and yet we seem to be told that it's all a bad brand of football, or it's all this. We are the only provincial championship that is doing anything, and in regarding close to entertaining matches so far. Obviously the bigger teams will come, and the cream will come to the crop later on in the championship, but we're doing it on a weekly basis, you know, if you take out the Fermanagh match. So, you know, the games are good, they're worth watching, and I think Sunday, no matter what ideal you have about football, you know, the purists want this lovely open brand of football. It won't be like that, but there will be passages of brilliant play, and Enda's right too. There'll be a 10-minute stage in the game when somebody dominates, and it's who scores the most in that 10 minutes that can kill the game off. Donegal are very good at it. Armagh had it in the bag last year. In the last 10 minutes, Michael Murphy stepped up to the plate. Keep Murphy quiet and have a good 10-minute spell in the second half, and Armagh win shout.
The 2 of them have mentioned about Jamie Clark playing close to goal. I would just that Donegal full. I've seen top teammates of mine struggle in there against the McGees. They just suffocate the life, and it's so physical and so hard in that defence to get a decent ball in, and Jamie needs a wee bit of space to operate. Yeah. The one thing that the way Donegal play, they do sit back, and inside the 45 is very, very crowded. But Jamie is such a gifted player and such I'd imagine, amazing playmaker, that there could well be the time, if he's not getting on it inside, absolutely he's most dangerous inside. But it could be he would be more elusive to mark out round the middle, and his cleverness on the ball, that intelligence on the ball and his ability to pick out passes could well be a useful tool for Armagh in that middle sector where they need a wee bit more craft to release some of their men inside. Unfortunately, you'd need 2 Jamies. Yeah. You need Jamie feeding Jamie. But I think there's potential for Jamie coming out round as well.
Well then, Paddy, managers are going to be huge on Sunday. You know, moving players, bringing players out, switching, bringing players on. You know, it'll be a tactical battle both on the field and off the field.
Yeah, and the 2 managers are no strangers to each other either. That actually the 3 of us used to work in Dublin together. So
work, Paddy.
Yeah.
Use the language.
Man, Paddy, always good for one. I'll tell you that.
By the way, we were meant to be pecking on him.
Oh right. Oh, you're easy.
But yeah, the 2 boys are no strangers to each other, and there would be a certain competitiveness there even amongst them, and dare say even a touch of animosity. So you might see more than just a tactical battle along the sideline at some stage. Although I don't
fancy Rory Gallagher's chances.
I don't fancy Rory's chances. In fairness. But in fairness to Rory, like Rory's rejuvenated the Donegal team. Like I actually think they're in a better place this year than they were last year.
Yeah.
You know, fair enough that they had an absolutely brilliant performance against Dublin, but they were poor in the final. But he's wrapped up the key players for them, you know, over the league. He discarded the league semi-final with a view that Tyrone were coming up next. Neil Gallagher, again, who's a lot of these boys has been on the road a long time. Probably all carrying little knocks, so they need to be nursed from game to game. All you want is them peaking for their 70 minutes on a championship day. The same with Lacey. Lacey's basically operating now as a full-time footballer. He gave up work as well, Benny. And he trains more or less as a professional. So Rory was cute enough, because I think, now just reading between the lines between the fallout between McGuinness and Rory, I think Rory was maybe trying to air these views at one stage, whereas McGuinness was very much of the belief that everybody does it. The same as Benny was touching on earlier with Paddy O'Rourke and Jamie, that you couldn't make one rule for one and not another. But I think Rory's obviously got the respect of them players, that he's given them a little latitude. They know their bodies best, and that ultimately when it comes to the championship, those big players like Gallagher in the middle, who's probably he's underrated really for Donegal, because he's massive. He's their biggest player for a start off, but he really is the centre of that team. You know, you have Murphy, who basically is your fire. He's your fireman everywhere. He's putting out fires where it's in defence. I know you'd like to see him play full forward for the whole game, but there's no point him standing there idle. Like, he is a great reader of the game, that he spots trouble and away he goes and he sorts it out. Like.
Well, Benny, like any good journalist that you are,
thank you.
You put your finger on it earlier on when you said that Ulster is the last great provincial championship.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Yeah, I think well, early stages. You know, I'm sure RTE and the likes of these Sky are going, geez, thanks be to God for Ulster, because the start of the championship and these early stages in particular. We're the only show in town, and Egon touched on it there, where on Martin, that when Donegal and Tyrone were pulled out of the hat, you know, it's the only draw that, you know, and every year you can go to the RT draw and you could actually make tea and coffee and go away to the toilet for the previous draws, but you'll be there for the Ulster draw, because there's always a wee bit of venom there. There's always a wee bit of sibling and rivalry. You know, there's something there. You know, Armagh, Tyrone, wouldn't matter if they were in both Division 3. They'll be cheering in every house.
Tyrone, Donegal, Tyrone, like Tyrone are picked on.
Yeah. There's a common denominator there. Yeah. Tyrone people are equivalent to the English abroad. And there's things like that. There's rivalry, Armagh down, Derry, Tyrone. You know, there's all that rivalry there. It doesn't exist really in other provinces. The Munster Championship is a two-horse race. Connacht is probably, you know, the next best thing to it. And at the minute, Leinster, you know, with Meath falling away so much, you've only got Dublin really, who sail. I think they've got 10 Leinster titles. They're going for the 10th in a row or something, which is ridiculous. There was a stage when Armagh and Tyrone were dominating earlier on, but that's not the case anymore, because other teams in Ulster reinvent themselves and they keep coming back. But given, bar maybe one or two sides in Ulster, we can be a match for each other in any shape, way or form, and that's the beauty of the Ulster Championship. The other championships, I'm not saying a team from Ulster will win their learning, but by God, we're given entertainment and value for the Ulster Championship. We're the only show in town, basically.
Right, so we were all lucky enough to win Ulster Championship medals. There's just something about an Ulster final day in Clonus, or if you go back far enough, in Casement Park, it is just, it's of its own.
It's a bit like a Munster hurling championship. You know, they talk about it down there. That's the big day in hurling. You know, we're the same up here. We don't probably get the same credit, I'm sure the boys will say as well. But at the minute, you know, it doesn't matter how bad we are. There's always something going to happen up here.
But as much as the men were saying earlier, I remember it was the first year that I wasn't playing that I went to Clonus, and it brought back all the memories of parking out on the wee country roads and getting the sandwiches in the car, and you were walking to the match. And it is just something special that you actually miss as a player. You miss that as a player. You didn't miss sandwiches. You missed them too much.
The burgers were nice.
You know, so certainly, it's the atmosphere is massive, and I suppose like everybody, you can't wait. You know, hopefully something will happen with Casement, because it'd be brilliant to have something there, and it'll take it a wee bit of time to get them same memories. But you just are so used to going with your family and everybody loading up into the car, and we used to go over the mountain, like, and there was this convoy of cars way up over in this back road, and it just was so much part of it, like, and the atmosphere, Casement, no matter how good that new stadium will be, please God, it'll get built, but it will go a long way before it beats Clonus on a summer's day, full crowd, beating Armagh. You know, it's just something. You know.
The man's in dream world. That's why we're going to Casement.
You were doing all right up the last few words. I mentioned your, I don't want to paint a bad picture of you, Gerard, but I was talking about you being lucky on Saturday night in Armagh with that dog of yours.
That's the first time he was lucky with a dog.
Peter McDonald must be a man of great patience, that's all I'd say. Who do you think will win the Ulster Championship? We're going to have the 4 semi-finals will be on.
Martin McGinley's here. I think they fixed the draw. He's fixed it one. He's got one match so that the TV was Tyrone and Donegal, and how you got Monaghan on that side of the draw, I'll never know. Monaghan have a penalty kick this year, right through to the final. If a free bet in the final, whoever's going to be out that side, Monaghan will win the Ulster Championship.
So you're going for Monaghan, the Ulster Championship. And we'll just wend our way across then.
I certainly think it's going to be Monaghan. I personally think, as I sort of maybe hinted earlier, I think Donegal will come through this match, and I think Donegal will beat Derry in the semi-final. So for me, it's a Donegal-Monaghan final, which again, if that comes to pass, will almost, whatever permutation comes to pass, it should be a great Ulster final. I think Donegal-Monaghan is really a toss of a coin. For me, I think Monaghan's run, they can afford to peak that match, that one big game, whereas whatever team comes out of the other half of the draw is going to be battered and bruised.
Yes.
No Armagh, according to Mr. McGinley, Benny.
Wouldn't expect anything less. DUP.
Wouldn't want to let you down.
I think the winners of Donegal and Armagh will get to an Ulster final, and I'm still not ruling out Armagh. I'm telling you, if you're a betting man and you had money laying, you probably wouldn't back Armagh. But I don't think Sunday's game is to be touched in the bookies. So if Armagh were to get through that, you know, you never know. We were 4 or 5 minutes away from an All-Ireland semi-final last year, supposedly coming from nowhere. It depends if we can keep all our players fit, and we can and the right team is picked. We talked about it, and Enda talked about Jamie coming out and a different man going in, and maybe getting the right pattern of play. My heart says Armagh. If Donegal beat Armagh, I'll go for Donegal.
I'm going to say, Paddy, I'll give you the last word, but there's a chance that your friend there on your right might just hit you at the end.
He might indeed.
Who would your permutation and final winner be?
From the start of the year, obviously with the draw in mind as well, you would have took Monaghan as far as a betting man as such. And I still would go with Monaghan. I'm probably, Enda's touched on the reasons there as well. Donegal are going to have to come through 3 games, or Armagh's going to have to come through another 2 as well. Monaghan's record against Armagh is quite strong. They seem to be able to be on a par and probably just getting the edge in Donegal on occasions as well. So as far as for Ulster, I think Monaghan probably just about will nick it, although I think Donegal will probably go further later on in the year.
On the All-Ireland?
I'm going to go with the Dubs. And I know Kerry's probably in a stronger position with the Gooch returning, and O'Donoghue's due to return again, and Walsh is back. I just think that Dublin are learning the lessons from last year. I think their squad is easily the strongest, as in the cover that they have. They're able to change the tempo of the game just by bringing on 2 or 3 subs. Like Jamie Connolly, I would probably count as one of the best all-round footballers in Ireland. You talked about having a number 11 that he can play basically anywhere. I just think personnel-wise, and I think they have the bit between their teeth this year, that they have probably looked at last year, and no disrespect to Kerry or anybody else, I would still say that the best team didn't win the All-Ireland last year, and that was Dublin, and I would put that firmly on Gavin's doorstep, to be quite honest. And I think, though, in fairness to him, looking at the games he's played against Ulster this year, he's preparing for all eventualities. If they meet Donegal, they'll not play the same way. So Dublin for me.
In a word, Benny?
Tyrone for the All-Ireland. They'll have a draw with Limerick. They'll draw with Limerick and Omagh, but they'll beat them by a point down in Limerick in the replay. No. I'm going to go with Kerry. I think they won with an average enough team last year. I think they're stronger this year. It'll be tight. Dublin are, Paddy says, I wouldn't put any money on it. I wouldn't. Dublin are look strong and they're very strong. But I think there's a chink there. That when they are under pressure, they win all their games right up to the semi-finals without beating anything. And the minute that there comes a challenge, then that question's never been asked. That question will be asked to Kerry by Cork, and it'll be asked by a few other sides as well. So they are notorious for doing this. I just think they're a wee bit stronger this year. Whether they do, I don't know, but it's between the two, I'd say.
And
reply to Benny.
Forget about the first remark. Go ahead.
No, I think first of all, like we chatted the first part of the programme, we're chatting a lot about the negativity of football, and yet whenever we started looking at the football championship, we would like Benny's mother, I'm sure, was thinking it mightn't be beautiful, but you can't wait to see it. You know.
I don't know who my mother is.
But can
I go back? No.
That's why it's coming in this order.
I was going to say at least I know my dad, but there we go.
From an Ulster Championship, I think in terms of All-Ireland contenders, I think whilst the Ulster Championship is open, I think Donegal is going to be the strongest side from Ulster that might compete at that All-Ireland phase. And all in that, you are looking at the big two, Kerry and Dublin. For me, I'd agree with Paddy. I think Dublin have an excellent panel. I think going from last year where they were phenomenal in the league and they were great entertainers in the league and they were great entertainers throughout the championship, they got beat by a very pragmatic type of football towards the end. I think they have been more restrained during the league. You can see them almost going up through the gears, and they are, I think, going to be a hungrier team this year for All-Ireland. And last year's will have hurt them because they were a phenomenal side last year, put in huge work and wanted that All-Ireland. I think they'll want it even more this year, and they'll be difficult to talk to.
Last word from Chair.
Yeah, to me, I think it's hard to win the two in a row. As much as I respect the guys coming back from Kerry, I think Dublin have all the aces this year. You know, the hunger, the players, and I think they'll learn from last year's mistakes.
Very good. I'd like to thank Alan, Porrig, Egon and Martin for their words at half-time. I'd like to thank Meghan Burns for her beautiful singing. I'd like to thank our four guests here, Paddy, Benny, Enda and Ger. And as they played us in, I would ask Bothan to play us out.
A song here for all the match officials on Sunday, especially the lanesmen. This is called Walking Down the Lane.
I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be fine. Tell me about my trouble of mine. Got a heavy-headed girl. I got a heavy-headed girl. I got a heavy-headed girl. She ain't doing well, but she's better only time will tell. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be fine. Tell me about my trouble of mine. My money comes and goes. My money comes and goes. My money comes and goes. Rolls and throws, rolls and throws through the holes in the pocket of my clothes. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be flying. Tell me about my trouble of mine.
Tom a buggy, he's a road. Tom a buggy, he's a road. Tom a buggy, he's a road. My casa era node, not triple jama and Gino.
I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be flying. Tell me about my trouble of mine. I got my walking shoes. I got my walking shoes. I got my walking shoes. No, we ain't going to lose. What else can a poor boy do? I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be flying. Tell me about my trouble of mine.
seen the morning light. I seen the morning light. Now it's not because I'm an early riser, cause I didn't get to sleep last night. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be flying. Tell me about my troubled mind. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. I'm a walking down the line. My feet will be flying. Tell me about your trouble. Tell me about your trouble. Tell me about your trouble, man.